Hello and welcome to the Extraordinary Living Podcast. I'm Andrew Downey, and boy, we're continuing to learn how to do this. It's been a little bit of a shake-up again this morning, but we're going to stick in there and we're going to get her done. Um, as as my life has unfolded, transformation has been one of just the biggest themes. And transformation requires a number of things, and that's the focus of this podcast. And it was motivated by my son Kai, who's pictured here with the gold helmet paddling that squirt boat. Squirt boats are actually designed to go underwater in current, like in rivers and stuff like that. It's a little bit of a derelict activity, as you can tell. He's not wearing a life jacket, which is certainly not recommended, but the glitter in the helmet is recommended for squirt boating. And so today we're focusing on transformation and the transformational experience. So we live here on a few acres. We've got some ponds. And the entire time that Naomi and I have been together, it's been so much of it has been about adventure. And we've integrated adventure into basically every part of our life. And you'll see that I'm basically making a claim that we must enter certain levels of chaos to be able to transform. And that uncertainty is kind of diametrically opposed to stability or to certainty. And this is represented by that yin yang symbol. And the line through the middle of the yin yang symbol is kind of like that line that some people recommend that you walk. I would generally say that Naomi and I have been more on the chaos side of things. We're both pretty adventuresome people, and so this is a photograph of her and Kai out in the pond, just enjoying the afternoon many years ago. And I talk a lot about, sports that are dangerous. And it's really important for everybody to know that you can enter chaos and uncertainty and use them as growth experiences and transform in very safe environments. Things don't have to be risky to transform. It's just part of how we've done it. And it's been really valuable to us, whether we're rock climbing or kayaking, whatever, there's a lot of different activities that as the podcast continues to mature and I discover more about how to actually modulate these things, run these things, then you'll kind of see a thread of adventure and danger through our through our lives. And I want to share it because you know not everything that seems dangerous is dangerous, but the point is that, like, transformation is the key to growth. You've got to change to grow, right? And so in the healing domain, we call change transformation, that you move from one way of being to another way of being as you integrate. And Naomi and I have both noticed that as we've matured, we've dialed down the amount of excitement that we need and the amount of danger that we need. And so I just want to impress upon everybody that we're not necessarily advocating for um, taking risks, because it's adventure can be found in calm waters too. And so this is a sweet old picture from a long trip that we took before I started chiropractic college. She was already a little bit, she was in first, she was in between second and third quarter when we went and toured all over the United States mountain biking and kayaking. And this is on, I guess, Big Sandy Creek in West Virginia. And so we have found whitewater as a neat exploration into chaos. And, chaos just has so much to teach about life and its necessity in transformation. And whitewater is really interesting. It's a really intriguing sport because, like alpine skiing is really fun, but the terrain is stable. I mean, you hope, right? Like if you're involved in an avalanche, then the terrain is moving, which gets really bad really fast. But kayaking is really dynamic because the river is moving and you're moving also. And so it's got this complexity that whether you're paddling gentle rivers or pretty intense whitewater, there are all of these things that you have to adapt to and deal with, and they bring an immense amount of gifts. I would say that whitewater has been one of my best teachers in life, and and in the world of transformation, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world actually as we are. The world is so much a reflection of how we're doing. And it's really good to know that if you're in an unshakable, positive mood and somebody cuts you off on the freeway, you're going to respond to it differently, probably, than if you've had a really bad day and you're trapped in all kinds of feelings and rehearsing vengeful thoughts already because something bad had happened at the office and then somebody cuts you off. You'll probably have a different reaction to the same stimuli. And so when I make a statement like we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are, there's very much a reflection between the two. And so the way that you are as a person tremendously impacts the way that you see the world, right? So how you see the world, it tremendously influences your life choices and what kind of decisions and choices you make. And then your internal state of being, it's based on what you've learned, right? What podcasts are you watching? What was your educational experience like? Were you homeschooled? Were you in the government schools? Were the government schools in the United States? Were they in Mexico? Did you grow up in the Ivory Coast or in Uruguay, right? So what language is it that you speak? It's like, what has your background been? What is it that you've learned? And then you're going to couple that with what your experiences are, right? All of our experiences then imprint, they create either like these free energy anchors inside of ourself of trust and love and courage. And it's like if you were really courageous one time, whatever the circumstance, but you found yourself being courageous, that creates an anchor of positivity and courageousness inside of you, which creates a probability, an increased probability of being courageous in the future when certain things happen that are similar. Just like if you have a bad experience, like maybe you're 11 years old and you're walking down the street and uh, four people, just show up and beat you up, right? That's going to probably create a pretty locked up anchor inside of you, a defensive anchor inside of you. And then confronted with a similar kind of thing in your life, it's very possible that you would react very defensively. And so um, the things that we experience, they create like an anchor for a certain characteristic or a defensive place for a certain characteristic. And as this program fleshes out, we'll be generally talking about this as bound energy and free energy inside the system. And are you responsive? Are you reactionary? Those two things are very different. The way that you see the world is affected by what it is that you focus on. If you find yourself focusing on lots of negativity, then that's what's going to be mirrored. And so that's what's going to amplify through your system. And you'll find yourself living in a place of more fear, doubt, concern, these sorts of things. And that's very rampant in our society right now. If people really pay attention to the media, there's a whole lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt being thrown around all over the place. And, but if you are, can pay attention, I think that that's important, have a sense of understanding of what's going on, but spend a lot of time focusing on what's right in the world, what's right with you, what's right in your relationships. I have multiple practice members that they get up early in the morning, and the first thing that they do is they write down at least 5 things that they're very grateful for. And so some of these exercises that are known throughout the healing and transformational coaching models, they're really valuable because they focus you in a direction that creates a directionally better life for yourself. And so focus matters. This next piece is a little bit less understood by many people, is that there's this quiet voice inside. For many people, it's a quiet voice. It's been hushed so much, but there's this body wisdom that speaks to us in subtlety and in truth. And I would say that there are technologies on the planet that help us increase our capacity to listen. It doesn't it will make the message more clear. It will deepen the message. It will amplify the message. There are technologies that help you become more somatically aware of your body, whether that's through the technologies that I teach called ELAN. But there are many other technologies out there, whether it's the network community, the people that are bringing biogeometrical integration to the world. But there are a lot of really good technologies that have to do with people learning to focus inside their body, connect inside their body, dissipate the tension around the locked up energy inside their bodies, freeing that, which then allows the body's wisdom to speak clearer and louder to the individual that's operating that machine. And so this is what we're going to talk about as inner knowing, or what I like to call body wisdom. It's like your star player. And the more that you listen to that, and unfortunately, sometimes it speaks in a nonsensical kind of way, and it's a little bit challenging to decipher the why or the analysis behind it. I find that it's my analytical mind that has to catch up to my star player, and I think that's the appropriate way for things to be. It keeps me guessing about, how my life is going to unfold, and it doesn't allow me to totally control things. And I'm a really controlling person by nature, but I've learned to trust my inner wisdom, and so I find it fascinating to watch in just inside of my life, and I encourage people to look at this inside of their own lives, of like following through with those gentle nudges from inside, getting your hands on your body, breathing, freeing up that inner clarity, and then as information bubbles up from within, it's like that when you're speaking truth to yourself from inside. And if you follow through with that a bit, then even though it's not very supported in culture, but if you do that, you might find that your star player is guiding you in ways that will require your analytical brain to catch up with. It's like, oh, that's why I was supposed to do this. And so I find that to be like a really fun way to live. It's also a really healthy way to live. So I'm a fan of getting connected to inner knowing. Um, the way that we carry ourselves, our posture, makes a really big difference because, you know, if obviously if you're driving or it's inappropriate right now, obviously don't do this, but if the circumstances are appropriate, take your whole body and fold yourself in. Fold yourself in and lower your head down towards your knees, and then try to feel inspired, you know? And that's an interesting thing to do because I can't do that. Maybe you can, but I can't do that. But if you sit up straight and you put your shoulders back and you kind of tip your head back a little bit and then feel inspired, right? Is it easier to feel inspired just from shifting your body's position? Yeah, of course it is. And it's the same kind of a thing that the posture oftentimes associated with being depressed or anxious is one that's more folded in on them on yourself, right? If you're upright and shoulders back, it's like try to feel depressed, right? And so these are things that you can play with. And so then as a chiropractor, we're arguing for good posture. I mean, for a litany of reasons that, I'll just touch on, but it has huge health. It has a ton of health associated with how you carry your spine, but not only like health in the physical dimension, but health in the mental domain and health in the emotional domain, how you feel about yourself, how you carry yourself. And it also communicates to other people how easy you will be a target. If you're, if you and three of your friends are a small pack of wolves and you see a person kind of walking along, kind of hunched over, right? And you see somebody else that's more upright, which one is lunch? Right? These are just nonverbal cues, and most of our communication is nonverbal. So if you're a thief and you're going to, mug somebody, do you take the person that's upright and aware, or do you victimize the person that is like kind of like hunched over and that kind of a thing, right? And so our posture communicates tremendous amounts of information to the culture around us and how we fit into culture and our friends and all of these kinds of things. And so chiropractors are arguing, there's a lot of people, it's not just the chiropractors, right? It's like there are many different professions that are arguing that posture is a good thing. But what I recommend is that posture should unwind naturally. So it's a very different energy to like a military posture that's full of tension, but the posture like looks textbook good, but there's a lot of tension inside it. Those people have the tendency to be like lots and lots of spine, but very little heart. I hope that that makes some sense. And what we want to do is as we dissipate the tension around the spine, then the spine isn't contorted. And so then as the spine frees up, then we have a strong structural spine, but it's balanced by more heart. And so it's more of there's more of an equilibrium because, a man that's all heart and no spine is unattractive to men and women. And a man that is all spine and no heart is very far, it's far down on the attractiveness, right? Just to a certain aspect, a small aspect of people that feel like they need a lot of protection around them. And so I'm arguing that that posture matters. Our genetics obviously matter. And when we get into genetics, I'll delve deeply into the whole field of epigenetics because I'll leave this here because this is such a rich topic, is that genes do not have the ability to turn themselves on or turn themselves off. Genes are controlled by other things. It turns out to be the cell membrane and the receptors on the cell membrane and different electrochemical things that happen at the cell membrane and at the receptors. That's what turns genes on and turns genes off. That's the field of epigenetics. And so just because you have that your mother had cancer, your dad had cancer, both of them had high blood pressure and both died early from these gnarly diseases doesn't mean that you have to. And so it's what turned the genes on, not just that you have the genes. And so that's very important. We'll cover that in gory detail later on. And it matters so much of like, how much nurturing happened during your upbringing from the point of conception through your whole gestation period, which is 10 months, not 9 months, right? 40 weeks, 10 months. It's like, what was mom eating and drinking? How was the relationship between her and her partner? What was that situation like? Were you preparing for a life? Was your nervous system preparing for a life of adversity and stress? Because all of the stress hormones that were going on in mom, and maybe dad was yelling at mom all the time and mom was angry and frustrated and all this kind of stuff. Babies in utero can hear, I think before the end of the first trimester, for sure in the early part of the second trimester. When we dig into the child development portion of this, once again, we're going to dig super deep into this. But once you're born, what was your birth like? What was your vaccine schedule? Did your parents do vaccines with you? Did your guardians do vaccines with you? Or did they say, well, we're not very concerned about our child either having sexual relations because they're only a day old, and I'm not concerned so much about them having blood mixed with their blood, right? Hepatitis B only transfers through blood or sexual activity. The baby's a day old. The odds are pretty low that any of those things are going to happen. So why would we give our baby a Hep B shot? So if you come at it from a place of logic, there's a strong argument to be hesitant when it comes to injecting your child with, man-made chemicals and stuff like this. And so we're going to do a super deep dive on that. But what were your parents like? Did your parents, were they deeply caring? Right? Were they so deeply caring that they didn't let you do anything, so you turned out to be pretty inept? Right? Were they overly rigid? All of these kinds of things. And so that matters on how we see the world. So there's like, life is just this incredibly rich thing. It's this completely rich thing. And in the domain of healing, it's like we know that our parents did good stuff, our guardians did good stuff, but they also messed some things up. And healing is about like our inner journey of how is it that we move forward with the human being that we would love to be. How do we do that? What technologies exist that allow us to rewrite the story of our life and move forward into new dimensions? Yeah. This is me on the North Fork of the Stanislaus. I was thinking about it, I think is actually 1991. And so I'm arguing for adventure. I'm arguing for adventure. I'm arguing for putting yourself in mild to significant forms of chaos. I recognize that uncontrolled, unending chaos can be very damaging to a person, right? You're involved in an earthquake like we had in Asia over the last couple of days. That's chaos, and you're standing on a tall building and there's unrelenting chaos for a period of time, and buildings start breaking, and some of the, you get smashed by part of the build, like, right? So chaos obviously can, when pushed to the extreme, small, significant, chaotic things can kill you. They can damage you for a very long time. Moderate levels of it, can be very beneficial. Small amounts of chaos can be beneficial. Just like, imagine you're learning to play the piano. To get better, you're going to have to enter a small domain of chaos, and you're going to have to just allow yourself to exist in the moment and then just watch yourself perform. And then you're going to integrate something new through your nervous system. And if you pay really subtle attention to learning how to do anything new, you're learning how to juggle 2 balls with one hand or 3 balls with 2 hands, right? You have to, at some point, you have to let go and then trust. You have to enter chaos to be able to integrate through your nervous system a new capacity and a new ability. And so it doesn't have to be any extreme chaos. It could be moderate, it could be very small or slight. But in the outdoor adventures, some of the things that I've noticed is that it creates a tremendous amount of trust in self, is that you know that you can do something. And the reason I'm talking about whether it's rock climbing or kayaking or canoeing in flat water or whatever it happens to be, is that as you perform actions inside of chaos more and more, that chaos becomes non-chaotic to you. So you feel completely stable inside of what maybe you used to feel as chaotic, but now everything is just working totally fine. It doesn't cause any stress response. The blood flow continues to go to your brain. You can think in the middle of everything, and it's just easy and good, right? That's how things progress. And it's one of the reasons why, rock climbers always need to climb something a little bit harder, do something a little bit more extreme, because they're pushing themselves into greater levels of chaos for them to understand themselves better and learn about what they're capable of. And so they need a riskier situation to be able to discover themselves, right? So people use adventure activity, risky sports as a transformational tool to discover themselves at deeper and deeper levels. Interview rock climbers, interview kayakers, interview people, rafters, interview skydivers. It's a path to wholeness. It's a path to spirituality. which is a kind of an interesting thing, you know? And so the so chaotic activities, it creates tremendous trust in self, and all of these things, whether it's trust in self, whether it's mental and physical strength, whether it's just raw courage, you know, these things, you take them from whatever the adventure sport is or whatever the activity is, it's going to translate into the life outside of that activity. So if we're just talking about kayaking, and you go kayaking, and you maybe um, take two of your friends down something that's moderately difficult, and you see courage expressed in them, you see courage expressed in yourself. But then you have a business thing that you need to do. The next day you've got a business meeting that you need to do, and you need to say something to somebody, and it's a little bit confrontational because business has a lot to do with your ability to speak up for yourself, recognize the moment, and be able to stand up for your boundaries, be able to stand, business. And so you'll have a greater capacity to, with courage and grace, like say what it is that you need to say. And so then the likelihood of taking the activity of, in this case, whitewater, creating some courage inside of yourself and maybe some mental toughness, that translates into a business activity, and then that business activity happens to move forward. And so we've raised our kids in the whitewater world, and because it teaches all of these lessons, and this is how this whole talk today came about, was because my son Kai came to me, and he was he had been this is him. He's very young in this photo. This is us up at Wrights Lake on a very early canoe trip. And so we've been taking the kids out since, day one, or, day 5, day 10. He's certainly not a month old here. And because the outdoor adventure brings so many things that then translate to the life that we want for our kids, and because we are the ones that are making the impression on the kids, it's our job to lead them in directions that we have found to be beneficial for our lives, um, and clean up some of the things that maybe we feel like our parents didn't do super good, and then it'll be our kids' job to clean up some of the things that we're not doing super good, right? And that's just the process of evolution. But Kai had come to me, and he had said, Dad, it's really amazing how I didn't really realize this about whitewater and kayaking, but some people look at it as a real kind of social thing to get together with their friends and this kind of stuff. And, but we've always looked at it as this way to pay attention to subtle cues, to know yourself better, know yourself deeper, and to pay attention to what's right and what's wrong for you. Because if you're looking at a big rapid that maybe has some danger to it, then you're going to find yourself in the place of needing to make a personal decision. Are you going to run that rapid because your ego is involved and you want to impress your friends, or you want to keep up with your friends, but that inner voice is saying, hey, this isn't safe, this isn't good, you should get out and walk around the rapid. And so adventure sports teach all these subtle lessons about yourself. And so the kids really recognize these things. And so along the lines of, you know, uh, what adventure sports teach, because we're just talking about power and human fortitude of being able to stick in there. It's like, imagine being 10 miles down a river, right? You're 10 miles down a river and you've got 3 miles left, and you just had a really bad experience. Maybe you flipped upside down and got pushed underneath a wall or something like that, and really made you really nervous. But you've still got 2 or 3 miles of whitewater to paddle. And so now your head is playing tricks on you because now you're concerned. And so now you're a little bit more scared and you've got a little bit of anxiety. It's like, so now how is it that you can do that activity in the middle of feeling anxious and fearful, right? How do you do that? How do you function inside of those kinds of things? Like, this is the creation of fortitude, because life life sometimes is scary, and we have this weird thing in our world that, like, fear is looked at as false evidence appearing real. Like, you're like that. I've heard that for decades now, and it's so misguided. It's so misguided. The reality is that we have an amazing vehicle that we're living inside of, and it tells us, our nervous system tells us what's a threat, what's not a threat. And when we feel threat, we feel fear. And the appropriate thing to do, it's not like false evidence appearing real and to disregard it and proceed. Like, that's silly. That will harm you in your life. But if you use the experience of fear in the positive, you go, fear means slow down, breathe, really be connected internally, proceed with caution, proceed with caution until the feeling changes. It's to bring a heightened sense of awareness and a heightened sense of readiness for you to take really good action, right? That's what fear means. And it's a healthy thing. And so then on the calmer side of adventure, what an adventure it is to be out on Wright's Lake. This is would have been June, early July of 2002. And, we're out on a lake and you got a newborn, and boy, you don't want to make any mistakes, right? But I'm confident enough that I can paddle around in this gentle lake with my wife and kid. And so in the calm aspects of being in the outdoors, maybe you're backpacking, maybe you're setting up camp, maybe it's a still morning, maybe you're canoeing or kayaking on a lake, maybe you're fly fishing, whatever it is that you happen to do, it's like it will bring about senses of awe and stillness. It'll bring about a natural state of spaciousness, because inside of the freedom of nature, right? Nature is the most enriched environment that you can be in. And the more raw the nature, the more real the nature is. So I'm not talking about a park in San Francisco, right? A park in San Francisco is creates more spaciousness than Ninth Street in San Francisco, from an internal expansive way of talking about it. But I'll tell you, if you're up in the high Sierras at a mountain lake by yourself, that creates even more, right? That's true. And it's true. And if you have not experienced that, please go do that, right? And so the more raw the nature is, the more enriched the environment is. And the more enriched the environment is, the more that your cortex has to develop. The more enriched the environment, the thicker the cortex you're going to be in. So if you're walking around in an enriched environment, it leads to huge amounts of personal growth and neurological development. We're going to dig deep into that as we're touching in on the child development program. But when we're out in nature, that spaciousness is something that humans love, because the illusion is that the spaciousness that you are is enclosed inside the body. The reality is that the expansiveness that you are, you can feel yourself out into your fields. And the safer you feel, the more connected you are, the more that that's going to expand and the more connected to the all you're going to feel. That's one of the reasons why people love nature so much, is because inside of the raw nature, they expand and they feel closer to God. What a beautiful, beautiful thing to integrate into your life is spaciousness and expansion. And one of the things that comes with that as you become more involved in this spaciousness and this personal expansion is that the thoughts will have the tendency to, you won't notice them in general, but you'll step right in between thoughts. And then you exist inside of no thought, pure experience. And that's a super beautiful place to exist inside of. People do transcendental meditation for a long time to be able to step into the space between thoughts and then hang out right there, right? To quiet the mind, right? And so these are some of the rich things that come from, stepping into chaos, however it is that you choose to step into chaos. These are the boys, probably 2 or 3 months ago here in, it would have been late 2004. There's a picture of Kai over on the Trinity late last year. Such a great photo. And so inside of personal growth, we have this older version of things that in the healing paradigm is called transcending. And we've got the newer version of things that's more about transformation. And so there's some differences. They're both good, but there's some differences. And so transcending is experiencing the silent field. Transcending is experiencing the silent field of pure awareness at the source of thought. So traditionally, what people are going to do is they're going to sit quietly and they're going to project the energy that they are up and out into some of the fields that are around the human body, but they're going to focus it from the head region up and out. They're going to connect in with fields above them, and then they're going to draw down novel insight. That is a beautiful thing, right? I'm a fan of all of this, but I just want to draw your attention to a couple of the nuanced differences. So yeah, it can be super beneficial, but what you're doing is you're skipping over, right? And what is it that you're skipping over? You're skipping over the body. You're not inside the body, you're sending yourself up and out. So you're including this part of you up and out. And this isn't for all types of meditation, right? There are some types of meditation that people go inward, and these are wonderful things. I'm talking about the classical types of transcendental meditative practices that send things up and out. And so obviously it can be beneficial, but it does involve skipping over. And people have the tendency to vacate the body, which is an unfortunate thing, because as people we're anchored in our body. But if your bliss comes from being out of the body, a lot of people develop a resentment to the body. And so they become very metaphysical, they'll become polarized metaphysical, and they have the tendency to not take very good care of their body, but their body is their vehicle for their life, and they downplay physiology, they downplay the actual performance and capacity of their vessel, which is dangerous, right? So they're focusing high, right? And here's the another one of the challenges of this, okay? So it can be seriously difficult, because the information, the novel insight, the wonderful information that they're drawing down from their organizational fields, the information that they're drawing down from that, it will have a real challenge to integrate into the physiology, because the physiology will still have a bunch of defenses through it. And so that's why a lot of people thermodynamically couple transcendental meditation with yoga practices, so that they can dissipate the tension around their physiology, and while they download good information. So they're coupling two different practices, and of course, that's positive movement. So I know that it sounds like I'm maybe bashing transcendental meditation a little bit too much. It's not really my intention. It's just to draw some differences, so that maybe we can add value to people inhabiting their body a little bit more. And so when a person is engaged in just going outside of themselves, they still have anchors of defense through their physiology, which are anchoring them into who they've been in the past. And so they will continue to act out and be the same as they've always been. So it's hard for them to integrate or adopt new novel insights that they're downloading from source or their upper mental field, whatever the case happens to be. In the domain of transformation, like, what we're really looking to do is we're really looking to move to a new place of being, to truly integrate, to move forward and include the past. How is it that we include the past and move forward? And so transformation is utilizing the subtle to not so subtle experiences of the mind body to actually alter your behavior. How is it that you can do this? And so this can also be really beneficial. So when I talk about the subtle to not so subtle experiences of the body, I'm actually talking about getting your hands on your body and breathing and moving, right? There are various technologies for that. And if you can go to our website at, and listed in the description, and we have things, the exercises that you can do that are available that like show you step by step how to do this. But it's when you put your hands on your body and you breathe and you move and you coordinate those activities, you are going to notice some things inside of yourself. Does it feel good? Does it not feel so good? Is it easy? Is it kind of challenging? I would recommend that utilizing the principle of what you focus on, you get more of. So if you want more ease in your body mind, then focus on where you put your hands, that it's easy for you to breathe. You can breathe and you can move that part of your body, right? It's important to have your hands on your body. This is sensation, right? There are neurological tracks that go to your sensory cortex, right? And then if you coordinate the movement, you're also adding the movement component to it. There are neurological tracks of movement that then your brain can then put together sensory and motor with breath and focus, right? Sensory, motor, focus in there, breath in there. That's 4 different aspects of you as a person, and you're coupling all of those in one place. Therefore, if it's easy for you to do that in a certain part of your body, then the reality is there's an anchor of ease in that part of your body, and you want to focus on that, because what you focus on you get more of. And as you move your hands around focusing on the parts that work the best, then you're going to spread ease around through your physiology. And it's fantastic to then you just watch your life. Does your life get more difficult or does it become more easy? Right? Your life is a reflection of your physiology. You are an instrument, and if the instrument is all torqued and twisted, right? You got a violin and the strings are not optimally tensioned. How does it sound? What's the music that it plays? What's the response it gets from the people that hear it? Right? What is the what is your instrument? How is it strung? Right? The way that you tune the instrument is find the ease and then move your hands around and focus on where the ease is, and this will tune you over time. What a beautiful, simple thing to do that is free, right? And so, and then you just watch, use yourself as an experiment. Does your life get better and easier? Do you transform? Do you change the way, do you naturally change the way that you run relationships, how you talk to yourself, what you have gratitude for, what you choose to do in your life, right? Does it change, right? Do you transform simply, right? So anyway, transformation can be quite beneficial because we're including the body. We're looking into the body, not just out of the body. It involves going through. What I mean by that, it involves going through your body, going through your physiology. Because what you're doing is you're incarnating, you're inhabiting your body, you're going to be in your body. And then we're going to talk about, like, how do you inhabit your body? How do you stay in your body while you're looking at a webcam, right? How do you be in your body? How do you be in your body when different things happen inside of your life? What scares you out of your body? When you get scared out of your body, when you go into defense, where do you go, right? These are beautiful things to learn. Yeah. Focus inside the body and allow that to expand. The tendency is that then you unconsciously integrate into your life. I've found that many of the people become less controlling. We become less controlling, and society is teaching us to be control freaks. And what's interesting, one of the things that's really interesting about this is that you're a spiritual, my claim, it's not me, I didn't make this up, right? I believe, I should say it that way, I believe that we're a spiritual being having a physical experience, and the physiology is the outpicturing that the organizational fields create this as the end representation of the energy. And the deal seems to be that the more that you connect internally, the more that you can see through yourself and outside yourself. So in many meditative practices, you focus here and up. And what I'm suggesting is that you focus inside and out. And so that you take your whole body with you as you expand into the organizational fields around you, and that it's more full body rather than that. Okay, so that was my program for today. And we'll get together next Wednesday at 9:30, where we will be moving forward on this fantastic journey of discovery. Thanks for being here.